Welcome to The Midpoint, conversations with the extraordinary people building the American innovation economy from the inside out. I'm Patrick McKenna, founder of One America Works. Welcome to The Midpoint. I'm Patrick McKenna, founder of One America Works and partner at Comeback Capital. Today, I'm joined by JJ Xu, a founder and CEO of TalkMeUp. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me here, Patrick. Nice to meet you.
So this is the first time that we've had a chance to chat, to talk, and get to know each other. Really excited about this conversation. You're in the AI space and you're finding an application here, and it is a hot topic. Everybody's talking about it or chatting about it, so to speak. And so I'm looking forward to diving into that. To kick us off, would you mind just giving us a little bit of background on the company, what you're doing, how you got started?
Yeah, so our company is called TalkMeUp. It's an AI-powered software company focused on workforce communication training. So traditionally, we kind of always depend on human coaches to do the training, for instance, sales training, leadership, communication training, etc. What we do is we simply move everything and make everything automatic by using AI. So our users got the chance to speak to the camera using their mobile devices, and then we give them instant analysis. So basically, we created a smart coach for everyone to use. Yeah.
How did you get interested in this? I mean, it's such a powerful application of AI. I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got interested in the topic and this, and how did you think of applying it this way?
I think intrinsically, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur ever since I was a kid. That's why I quit my job in China and then came to Carnegie Mellon University in 2016 for the MBA study. Oh. And I was, entrepreneurship concentrated through and through. And the first year I was struggling to find a valid idea to pursue. So towards the first year of my MBA program, I was doing some soul searching. I was asking myself, what's the whole point of, quitting my job and then come to an MBA program? What's the value of a typical MBA program? I couldn't find a straight answer right away to myself. So I did a survey among my classmates at that time. I asked people to rank the most valuable things out of a typical MBA program. And surprisingly, people didn't rank those, knowledge-based courses, but rather they ranked two things. One is the network resources, which is pretty obvious. Another thing is the communication training or soft skill training, some people might call it. That basically led me to dig deeper into the market. And I realized, wow, it's a huge market, multi-billion we're talking about. Everybody who was providing at that time was providing the training service was pretty old school because again always require human coaches to conduct the training services. And if you look at the market, there might be some companies who made some innovation in terms of innovating the workflow. That means they would ask the employees to record themselves, and then they will send the videos to their managers or coaches to, again, manually reviewed. In our case, we fully automate the whole process because, for those who are interested in entrepreneurship, they must have heard the term, goodness factors. When you create a solution, you need to be 10 times better, 10 times cheaper, or you get people connected. So in our case, we create a solution that is at least 5 times better and 100 times cheaper by using AI. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I love the way you frame that up in terms of productivity, right? 5X and 100X. And we all know that you have to get adoption of a new technology, service, workflow, you need to have a demonstratable, massive change, because incremental change doesn't do it. How did you measure that? Because that really resonated with me like that. And first of all, I just want to also note that you have some impressive clients. Really looking here that you have Yale, University of Chicago, ESP and Hearst as clients, and those are blue chip clients. So what you're doing is really resonating. Can you kind of connect the dots between how you measured that productivity and then how you communicated that to these early adopter clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll be surprised, how, unmeasured the old school methods are, because for human coaches, they can't quantify how well you're performing in terms of your soft skills. So in our case, we use AI to fully quantify every metric. So we're still using the training methodology, good human coaches are using, or the academic has been using for decades. It's called persuasive communication. So basically, we give you an analysis based on your target audience decision-making criteria, depending on what kind of scenario you are communicating in. That being said, we break down each user's performance into a set of metrics around their delivery and around their content strategy. For instance, we analyze your facial expression, your filler words, your logical structure, gesture, eye contact, etc., etc. That being said, we can truly quantify their soft skills. Whereas, when it comes to human coaches, it's really hard for them to count how many filler words you've been said during the 5 minutes, for instance.
There's a great lesson for entrepreneurs, right? Is that you created the measure because it wasn't measured well, right? So you created the measure and then showed that you actually moved the needle. So sounds like people were in the context, in your context, because they weren't measuring it before. So you got to define the terms. Does that sound about right?
In terms of, what kind of metrics we measure, that's still the same methodology the industry has been using. So in our case, we only use AI to quantify it so that for our clients, they can get the specific ROI measured out of the whole training process with us. So for instance, give you some references. One of the clients, they raised their baseline by 44% after only 3 weeks of training using our tool. And that was pretty impressive. Whereas if you look at the old school classic, classroom training methods, it is really hard to measure the training results, and people just forget what they learn. In our case, the system documents everything you do, and you can always go back and revisit your performance. So there's a reinforcement of training every time you use our product.
Yeah, it's quite brilliant to use the tool to measure and then use the tool to improve, right? So you kind of have a bit of a closed loop there. If you're going to solving 2 problems at once. I mean, even if you weren't improving, probably just measuring helps, right? That's a nice
self-awareness. Yeah, absolutely.
That's really great. And so was there some moment when you had like a breakthrough moment when you were like, this is something that I want to commit a lot of my time to? Because, being an entrepreneur, you're all in, and it's hard to, at some point you cross the chasm and you're just completely committed to it. Was there some moment where you said, okay, how did you, where was that? Was it a tech? Was it feedback? What happened that led you to go down that path?
I would say there were a lot of moments, like incremental achievements, I would say. So the first moment would be us winning a McGinnis competition at CMU when I was still an MBA student over there. That was 2018. And then from there, we've been doing continuous customer discovery since day one. And every time when we heard, from the prospects saying, this is exactly what we're looking for, or whether it's the product itself or the vision I was selling when it was earlier time, it just gives you confidence to pursue what you envisioned. So basically, we didn't change the direction since day one in terms of what kind of solution we need to provide. For the past few years, we have been continued to iterate the product so that we can offer a better solution to support our clients day-to-day operations. So yeah.
So you mentioned the reasons to go to business school, which is an interesting path in general. It's a lot of entrepreneurs actually just start the company, and you mentioned the rationale for business school being 2 things: 1, the network, and 2, the communication, the skills. And you're tackling the communication skills. Was there can you talk about was there somebody in your network or some mentor or some validator, somebody in your network that helped you make a breakthrough as you were starting your company?
Yeah, so on our board of advisors, we have Professor Ron Placone, who's the faculty lead of Accelerate Leadership Center at Carnegie Mellon University. So Ron has been super helpful since day one. He's super supportive. I think he's one of the best professors I've ever met in my life. So he is the expert or the guru in this field. And then at the early stage of our company, I exchanged the ideas with him a lot and got a lot of inspiration and support from him. And he personally introduced a lot of prospects for me to do in-depth customer discovery for me to shape the specific business idea. So
it was a
yeah,
professor
and
that was
yeah,
kind of
and
instrumental.
CMU Short Center, I give a lot of credit to them as well. Yeah, they provided all the help I needed at the early stage, especially. Yeah.
So you've decided to stay in Pittsburgh. You know, you came here from abroad to your first stop was
From China.
CMU. Oh, from China.
Yeah.
From
Mm.
and
Yeah.
and you studied in business school at Carnegie Mellon. It's in Pittsburgh. Decided to start a company, and you decided to stay in Pittsburgh, right? You didn't go to Silicon Valley, Boston. There's other places that people typically go. You know, what was it about, or what is it about Pittsburgh that has, you know, kept you there?
A few things. One would be the cost, you know, especially for early stage startups, the cost is very important, right? You need to run your company in a cost efficient way. So in terms of, you know, recruiting costs or, you know, renting offices, et cetera, Pittsburgh is definitely a good place to start. So one is cost. Another thing would be the ecosystem, especially, you know, CMU is the home base for TalkMeUp. We got a lot of support and resources, if not directly from within the CMU campus, but you know, also from, you know, second degree connections that CMU people introduced. So yeah.
You know, and it's you know, not a lot of people outside of Pittsburgh know this, but there's another quite famous and successful communication company in Pittsburgh focused on language, which is Duolingo. And have you had any benefits from, or have you connected with anybody at Duolingo? Or, you know, I'm wondering, is Pittsburgh actually going to be a kind of, are there more companies that are going to come in this kind of field? I mean, Duolingo's there, you're there, there's a bunch of, you know, more people coming up. Is there a little cluster happening in Pittsburgh around this application of technology?
I would say a lot of amazing things are happening in CMU, if not, you know, the whole Pittsburgh area. I wouldn't be surprised if there are more companies coming out, you know, tackling not only language area, but also in other areas. Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of founders are, you know, are kind of have to lean on some skill, special skill they have. Some would call it a superpower, you know, to really overcome the grind of getting things off the ground and going. Do you have a superpower, and what is it?
I guess I can be really like shameless when it comes to, you know, getting resources to grow the company. I would, for instance, when I interview industry experts, I would always ask them to introduce more people for me to talk with. As you can imagine, you know, I came to the States in 2016. At that time when I started the company, I had zero connection, zero resource here. I literally started everything from scratch. Yeah, you just need to be really tenacious and just go after.
It's a really powerful example. You know, I like to talk a lot about the trust network of like the people that kind of validate you in to meeting more people. And you put that as your superpower is, you know, asking for the next introduction. And you came to the States not knowing anybody, but you plugged into the CMU network. And then you worked hard, you kind of showed that you knew what you were doing, and you grabbed the network node from a professor, then just led to the next thing. So I think any founders who are seeing this would probably take that lesson from you that, you know, building wherever you start, build a network of trusted advisors and access points around you. Sounds like you've really used that well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then for most founders, I think, especially at the early stage, you always struggle to find the perfect team, right? Because you can't do everything yourself. You need team members to form a powerful team from all aspects. I think that's also an iterative process. I see a lot of, you know, fellow entrepreneurs gave up because they didn't find the right person on day one. But you know, it just takes time. So I think in my case, I got very lucky. Even though, you know, people come and go, especially at the early stage, we eventually, landed a super powerful team. Yeah.
So that's actually a good point. Was there a point where you considered quitting, and what kept you going?
Uh, there has never been a moment of doubt, I would say.
Hmm.
Um,
Classic entrepreneurial self-delusion. Love it.
right, right. We're all
It takes
crazy.
that, right? It really does. You have to believe.
Yeah.
You have to really believe.
Mm.
And what motivates you? And that's the second part of this. Like, why is this a problem that's so important to you?
Um, this might sound like very romantic or childish, but I truly believe that through entrepreneurship I can help people.
Hmm.
And I know, especially in this field that TalkMeUp is operating, a lot of people, they don't have the access to good communication resources. So
Hmm.
good communication resources has been considered elite resource because
Yeah.
it's super expensive, right?
Hmm.
With AI technology, hopefully we can make this available for everybody. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, just technology and increasing human potential and creating more access to kind of these
Mm,
luxury services. That is a
right.
phenomenal, just a thesis in general that entrepreneurs from every category can probably find a way to do something like that. So that's great. So let's move into predictions, because like you are in a super hot space. You're an expert in the field. Everybody's talking about Chat GPT and OpenAI and
Right.
Jasper and all the Dolly and all these things. Can you give us a prediction on where the AI market is going? Like what's the next thing that people should be keeping an eye out for?
Um, I think if we look back, for the past 1 or 2 decades, a lot of cool companies, they got created and then they died because even though their technology were cool, they were not actually solving a real problem, right?
Mhm.
So if I mean, nobody can see the future, but learning from the history, I would say any cool technology that can actually tackle a real problem will eventually survive. Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to let you off so easy. What is a big problem that is well suited to be solved by AI, and not necessarily in your field, just generally
Mm.
across the industry? Like, what are one or two, or even just one thing that you think is really well suited and is going to be disrupted early in the cycle?
Um, I think sci-fi movie directors might say that give you better answer, give us better answers. So whether it's flying taxis or better ways for people to communicate. For instance, nowadays we have Zoom. Maybe I don't know, like in 10, 20 years, people can communicate under um, uh, in their dreams or something like that. You never know.
I mean, it sounds like you're
So
writing the sci-fi script right now, communicating in our dreams. I really appreciate that, or I don't. Either I should be just terrified of it, right?
yeah, I mean, our team is also developing a bot to provide the role play training experience like any human coaches would do. So I would say a lot of like down the road you will see a lot of AI models passing the Turing test to serve people in all fields. Yeah.
What time frame is that? Are you thinking it's 1, 3, 10 years?
We already have the beta launched for internal testing already. Um, give it a year or two. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. It is happening. Like the world is speeding up. Well,
Yeah.
JJ, I've really appreciated your time today, sharing about your business, about your background, some insights to entrepreneurs. Wish you the best of luck, and we'll be keeping track of you as you progress on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick.